All right, so you're sure that those are the only two that you need? Yeah. Just last call. I want to make sure. I don't want anybody to feel left out. That's it. So up first is going to be number 17. Can somebody read number 17 for me, please? Plus 144. Okay, and does it say solve or factor? Factor? Okay. Okay, so when I factor, where do I start? A, B, or C? A, and what's my A here? X squared. So I need two numbers that multiply together to get x squared. So what is it? X and x, right? Nice and easy. Okay, now I need two numbers that multiply to get what? Where do I look next? B or C? C. Okay, so I need two numbers that multiply together to get 144, but they get added to get 24, right? So remember, the sign on C determines whether we're adding the factors or subtracting the factors. So two numbers that multiply together to get 144, but when you add them to get 24 is 12 and 12, right? Now, what's the sign on C, positive or negative? Positive. So does that mean that these are going to match or be different? They're going to match because they need to multiply to get a positive. So they're either both plus or both minus, and they're going to match B. So what's the sign on B? Negative. So these are both minus signs. Everybody okay? And then if you want to simplify, you can write it like that. Do you have to write it in this fashion? No. Okay, this is what I care about. Everybody all right? But if you look it up in the back of the book, it will be written in this form. Any questions on 17? Any questions on the process for when A is 1, right? So we go from A to C, add or subtract to get B, find our numbers, plug them in, right? 45. What does number 45 say, please and thank you? X squared plus what? And what do the directions say to do? In intercept form? Okay. So for this one, what they're really asking you to do is find the zeros, right? So what does that mean, find the zeros? What's the other name? So zeros is one name. What are the other three names? Roots, or you need to know these. You need to know all four of them because they're going to throw them at you like this. So zeros, roots, solutions, or x-intercepts, right? So if it's an x-intercept, it's on the x-axis, correct? What's the y-coordinate anywhere on the x-axis? 0. So if y is 0 at an x-intercept, where do you think the 0 is going to go in? For x or for y? For y. So I'm going to get x squared minus 8x plus 16 equal to 0. And I want you to find the x values that make this happen. Okay, well, how are we going to do that? What was the second part of the direction, Shelby? By rewriting the statement in what form? Intercept form, which if you remember right, was a set of parentheses times a set of parentheses, right? So what they're really asking you to do is what? What's the F word that we use that allows us to split something apart into two sets of parentheses? Factor. So what they really want you to do here is just factor. So, again, where do I start? A, B, or C? A, so what multiplies together to get x squared? X and x. I need two numbers that multiply together to get 16, but when I add them, I get 8. 4 and 4. Are the signs going to match or be different? Match, and they're both negatives. So now I've gone from standard form to intercept form, right? So that's the second part. And the first part said find the what's. What am I actually trying to find? The zeros, which means find the x value that makes the y go to 0. So now that I have intercepts, how do I go from intercepts to solutions? Or from factors to solutions? What do I do with each set of parentheses? Set it equal to what? 0. So this is when you actually solve. You go from factors to where you set each factor equal to 0 and find me the actual x values, right? Because remember, whenever they ask you for zeros, roots, solutions, or intercepts, you have to get x equals a number. Okay, so now that I have my factors, I'm going to actually find the x value that makes this statement true. So this is what we talked about last week about the zero product property, on where what's 0 times anything? 0, and what's anything times 0? 0. So that means that this statement will be equal to 0 when the first set of parentheses is equal to 0, or when the second set of parentheses is equal to 0. Everybody okay with that? Yes or no? Okay. So how do you get x by itself here? Add 4. So what's x equal to? 4. What about here? Add 4, right? So how many solutions does this have? It has 2, but it's actually repeated, right? So what does that mean? Well, what that means is that the graph will not cross the x-axis. it'll just touch it, which means that the vertex of the equation is going to be at 4, 0. Okay, whenever you have a repeat solution, that means that the graph is just touching it there. Okay, so that means that this x value is actually a point of inflection. Everybody all right? So the hard part on 45 is the language, right? What are they actually asking you to do? So whenever they ask you to find zeros, roots, solutions, or intercepts, they want you to factor and then set each factor equal to 0 and isolate the x. Everybody okay with that process, yes or no? Okay. Any other questions on the homework, particularly 17 or 45? And especially the language in 45. Is everybody good? All right, then you've got the rest of the hour just to work on